All right. Okay, welcome everybody to week 5. A few announcements. I updated the syllabus again. You know, I have a feeling I'm going to update the syllabus every week. So I actually put more green stock in for the second half of the semester, which means I had to crunch in some stuff for the last week of this half of the semester. We'll see how that goes. I was asked, what am I looking for the assignment number 1? So I thought I'd do something interesting. I thought I'd show you my attempt at assignment number 1 when I was first learning animation last year. So I'm going to show you my attempt, and I'm going to grade myself. Here it is. So this is what I did last year. Click there. That was my one and only. Claim to fame for animation right there. So, oh, by the way, the reason why there's an alert that you see here, because I was experimenting with this. You can actually listen when an animation ends. You can actually listen if it actually ends, and then you could do something with it when it doesn't. Just to, let me comment that out. Let me get the rubric out for this assignment, which is assignments. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to look at this chart because that's all I'm going to do. So good coding practices have been adhered to. So formatting is at a 1. So is it formatted well? So is it indented? So let's take a look at mine. Mine looks pretty good there. Right? All right. Next is commenting. Do I have any comments at all? If I have any comments whatsoever, I get 1 mark. I see no comments. I am a loser. Oh, there we go. Here we go. There we go. See. Oh yeah. So there we go. Oh, this is a trick. This is a hack, by the way, to make your animation start, and we'll get into that today. Separation of concerns are your basically. I don't want to see in your HTML markup any kind of style equals. So no inline CSS. So either separated through a separate file on its own, or I would accept CSS in the head section of the HTML. I'm going to pass your HTML markup inside validator.w3.org. So I'm going to basically do this, copy, go into HTML validator, put in here, and check it, right? And if you get errors, you get basically you get -1 for each error and half a mark off for each warning. So here I get, now it's a maximum of 2 marks. So I'd get 0 out of 2 for that one. Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. Good point. Thank you. I will change the rubric right now. So forget this 0 half. One for error. All right. So that's it. For this line, it's out of 5. If you're using transforms, transitions, or animations anywhere in your code, you get a 5. Like there's no way for me to give you a 2 or a 3 or a 4. It's like either a 0 or a 5. Here, jQuery effects or JavaScript has incorporated in an interesting way. Again, if you have JavaScript, it's a 5. If you have jQuery, it's a 5. If you have no JavaScript, no jQuery, it's a 0. So far, I've shown you how to add classes to make things, to add class. But there's no real way for me to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like either you have it or you don't. These next 3 are subjective. This switch is visually engaging and fun to use. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how many times am I going to click your toggle? If I find myself clicking it more than twice, maybe what I'll do is this is out of 5, and each time I click it, I'll keep a count of each time I click it, and that's the score you get here out of 5. That, I mean, it's still subjective, right? So, you know, if I click it on and click it off, that's 2 out of 5 at least. If I click it again on and off, that's 4 out of 5, you know. I mean, that's what I'll do. This one here is like, it's like Olympic figure skating, technical and creative aspect. So I think I put an announcement earlier on some of the class projects from last year. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but here's the link. Let's see. The link. I'm just going to forward it to the very end here. So this is one of them. The toggles there. So these guys got perfect, and this is another one. That's it. So these guys got perfect in terms of technical. If you looked at their code, it was like beyond anything that I was asking for them. So they got 5 out of 5 for both creativity and technical. For me, I mean, all I'm really doing is adding and removing classes. 3 out of 5. That's it. For creativity, there's not much happening here except for it turns into a square. 3 out of 5. So if we total it all up, assuming I got perfect on the validator and the comments and indenting, that's 80%. That's it. If I got something wrong in the validating, then, you know, maybe it's 73%, whatever. That's all I'm looking for, really. But if you want to go all out, you will definitely get the marks. Yeah, so sorry if I kind of misled you earlier on by giving you like, here's a link for inspiration. And then it's like, how are you going to do that? So I took that link out. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so that's it. All right, so today's class, we are moving on to keyframes animation. So just as a reminder, here's that map that where we're going through the map, and we began with transforms, and then week 4 we went to transitions. So those two kind of go together. And today we're going to use keyframes animation. All right, so we're going to learn about the syntax of how to use animation, both the longhand and the shorthand, and the various parameters that are needed. We're going to define some keyframes that spell out how that element changes visually, and we're going to design some keyframe-based animations that incorporates a variety of CSS properties. So one thing you could think of animations is it's like a power saw. So here's a quote by Sarah Drasner where she says, transitions, which was last week, they're like a saw, like a plane saw, but animations are like a power saw. An animation can act like a transition, but typically animations has multiple steps and is better at coordinating multiple events. So the reason why you would use keyframe animations is a number of reasons. Number one, you can repeat 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, infinite times. You can also self-start the animation. In the past, to start an animation, I required you to have a trigger, so either a hover or something like that. But with animations, they could just play right away upon load. Also, you have an alternating option where you can make it go forwards or backwards, where I sort of like to think of it as a DVD player where you can play it and then you can also play reverse or some kind of alternating sequence. And also you can group animation. So each animation itself, they can change multiple properties. So let's go and get into that. And today's class will be very interactive. So please pull up my slides because there's a lot of code pens today, more so than any other week so far. So here is visually what your eyes should be getting used to. It's how to use the keyframes animation. So there's basically 2 things you have to know. Number 1 is how to define the animation using keyframes. So step number 1 will always be defining your keyframes by using the @ keyframes, and make sure you include that letter S there. or it won't work. And also include the name. So this could be any name. Right near here, I just said Bobble, but it could be any name. And then step 2 is to assign what you just defined inside your element. So here we say the keyword animation. And then on the right-hand side, you could say the name that you just created of the keyframe, plus some more values. Okay. So let's try this out. So define the animation using keyframes with a name. So keyframes, basically, think of keyframes it's a list of breakpoints describing what should happen at 0%, 50%, 100%, and anything in between kind of thing. And animation name specifies the name of your keyframes. Make sure you include that, otherwise it will never work and you can never use it. So here is the first little challenge. So I want you to open up this CodePen right here. I click that CodePen, open it up, and all I'm asking you to do is step 1 is define your keyframe structure with a name. So all I'm looking for is this kind of code where you have @keyframes and you're going to put in your own name there and the brackets. So let's do that. And as you can see, we're going to play with the rocket that we had last week, so it's somewhat familiar to us. And maybe just for old time's sake, maybe I should just remind ourselves of how we did the transition. Yeah, maybe let's do that. So don't do what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to remind ourselves what we did last week. So I think last week I said something like this. I said, if you're going to hover over the rocket, then I want that rocket to translate Y. So basically go up, some 300 pixels. So right now, if I hover over the rocket, I expect it to go up. It does, right? Now, why isn't there any smoothing? It's because we don't have a transition. So it's important to put the transition at the root base element. So transition, we'll just say 2 seconds just to be fast. And there it goes, right? Oh, there we go. That's just a reminder. Number 1, this sentence here, recreate this exact launch using keyframes instead of transition. So I'm going to delete what I just said. Let's delete all of that and delete, what was the other one? Transition. So step 1 is to define the keyframe structure. So I in my comments here, you can see I say step 1 and I gave you some space below it. Keep in mind that when you're defining keyframes, this can be anywhere. It could be above the element, it could be below the element, whatever you want. So here we go. I said @keyframes, and I define my own variable name launch. That's step 1. For anytime you're using CSS keyframe animation, that's step 1. Let's add some breakpoints. So what you can do, actually, hold on, let me go back to my slide. Yeah, so my slides here, my next slide is declare the visual changes from 0% to 100%. So what we're saying is, at the very beginning, we're going to do, basically do nothing. We translate Y 0% is basically as is, status quo. And then the ending destination at 100%, we're going to move that to minus 300 pixels. So basically type that in. See what happens. So at 0%, Y to 0, transform, translate Y minus 300 pixels. Okay. Now, does it work? Does anything happen? No, because we have to now use what we defined. Before I actually get into this next slide, let me just show you a couple of things real quick. You don't have to have 0%, 100% here. You could say from. That would also work. That's only for simple animations. Most people use the percentages because they can define different percentages along the way. All right, so now let us assign what we just created to an element using the keyword animation. So I'm going to do the longhand notation for now, and then we'll get into the shorthand in a second. So we just defined our keyframes launch. Now we're going to use it using the longhand notation. Okay. And the only reason I want to use the longhand notation, so you actually know the different names of that. So here, under step 2, we're going to say the various different things. So animation name is launch. First one. By the way, the last week when we did transitions, we had the same kind of thing. We had transition. What did we have? Transition duration, transition delay, transition property, I think it was. So the animation is very similar. So first you have the animation name, then you have the animation duration. So let's make it. Oh, yes, thank you. I always forget. Thank you. We'll say 2 seconds or 2,000 milliseconds. Oh, look at that. It's already moving. You can have animation timing function. So I'll just say ease out. Again, from last week, you can put your own custom cubic Bezier here. So instead of saying ease out, you can have cubic Bezier and a bunch of parameters. Okay, so right now, as is, by the way, in CodePen, if you want it to run in CSS, so you could just press tab, and then by tabbing, it runs. Okay, so you could do that. Or backspace the tab. And you could have animation delay. Okay, so let's make a delay for 2 seconds. So it's not going to run until 2 seconds. 1, 2, launch, right? So that's same thing as last week. You have the same kind of parameters. Nothing new. Now, let's combine the above into shorthand, which is what most people use. So I'm going to comment out everything here, and I'm going to use the shorthand notation. So animation colon. And then the values are just whatever is on the right-hand side of what you just wrote. So launch, 1,000 milliseconds, ease out, 2 seconds. It should work. Okay. Same thing as last week. The question last week I posed was, does it matter on the order? And what was the answer then? Because the answer then is the same as the answer now. The order only matters for the time. So the first time that it encounters, it assumes that is the animation duration. The second time that it encounters, it assumes that is the delay. Otherwise, you can mix and match and jumble it up, and the sequence doesn't matter. Yeah. Correct. Yes. I think the keyframes itself, yeah. Yeah, but we'll get into that in a second. Yeah, the iteration. Okay, good. Convert the shorthand. Okay, so I have a little exercise here, this link right here. So you can open that up. What was that? It's supposed to run immediately. So is it not running for you? So every time let's say if I refresh this page right now, let me save this and refresh, it should automatically launch. There's no trigger. After 2 seconds, it launches. There it is. So is that not working for you? I say change view up here. Yeah, and I chose this one here. I should say, sometimes you may find it annoying that CodePen isn't like running on your command. In CodePen, you can actually change that. So watch this. Under settings, there should be a behavior tab right here, behavior. And then there's this checkbox for auto updating preview enabled. So I'm going to watch this. I'm going to take away the check mark, which means it's disabled. And by saving and closing, I now have a new button up top called run. So now it's up to me to press run each and every time if I want to see it go. So if I click on run right now, click, 1, 2 seconds, and then it should launch, right? There it is. So it's up to you how you want that to, I prefer the other one, but it's up to you. So I'm gonna enable that. Okay. So here is the next little challenge, very quick. So how I got that is this link right here. So the quick 1 minute exercise, I want you to open a new tab on that, but keep this open. Actually, no, keep this one open. This one with the hexagon, keep that open throughout the entire class today, because we're going to be doing multiple edits. So the little exercise I have for you, which you'll take 1 minute, is take this one line of code where I say animation bobble 3 seconds ease out. Take that one line of code, comment it out, and then below it, type out the longhand notation of the exact same thing. So the animation should still work. Give you 1 minute for that. And we're just getting used to the names here. All right, so let's take it up. So let's comment this out. And so the longhand would be animation name, bobble, semicolon, animation hyphen duration, 3 seconds, animation timing function ease out, and animation delay, 1 second. And it should have the exact same animation as before. That's great. So keep this open, don't close this, okay? For now, because we're going to use this same pen to edit multiple times throughout the class, let's go back to the shorthand notation. So just reverse everything you just did. So comment out the longhand notation, uncomment out the shorthand notation. All right. Next slide. Any questions so far? All right, so now that you know how to use keyframes and breakpoints, this is your challenge. I want you to recreate this intro screen. Not that. This, that, where it fades in and then fades out. That's it. That's all I want you to create. Okay? So, close. If you open up my code pen, you should see this. Now, at first you might be thinking, where's the text? And I believe it's because here under line 26, where I say under the class of .intro, I say opacity 1, just for you know, just so you know what's there under the hood. If you change the opacity from 0 to 1, you will see this text. Okay. I'll leave it up to you if you want to start with 0 or if you want to start with 1. So it doesn't matter. But I want you to create your animation keyframe. So I have here a simple two-step process. Step 1, introduce the keyframe structure, and you're defining it with your own name. In step 2, assigning it here. Okay. So I'll give you 5 minutes for that. Right. So go. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back to the rocket example because we're not finished with that one yet. In a second. Remind me if I forget. If you need help, you can refer to my previous slides that show the structure and the steps. We may not need 5 minutes. Anyone get it? You got it? Yeah, okay, Zach, you tell me what you did. So step one here, what'd you say? Yep. Yep. Oh, I see what you did there. And then what'd you say here then? I say it again, how many seconds? 3,500. Yep. No delay. All right. Now, as soon as it finishes, I believe it doesn't fade out. But I was looking for the fade out as well. Yes. Yep. Okay, let me try your way. You had 25, you had 50, and you had 75? No 50. Oh, no 50. Yep. Yep. Okay. Here's a trick, by the way. If both properties are the same, you could actually do this. Under 25%, comma, 75%. You could do that. Back to 0. And what did you say for animation? Seconds worth, okay. Yep. Okay. So here, as we're watching, it fades in and it should fade out as well after 5 seconds, I believe. It's not running. Hold on. Oh, I spelled it wrong. I spelled this opacity wrong. Try it again. Fades in. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, there we go. Fades out. All right. So that's right. So you could do that. Back to the rocket for a second. I had some other additional steps here. And you can get back to the rocket example CodePen. I want you to try step 2. So now that you've had some experience with breakpoints, add some more breakpoints so that the rocket flies in a square pattern. It's a crazy flying pattern. So go back to the CodePen, add your 25, 50, 75%, 100%, and try to make the rocket now fly in a square pattern now that you've had experience with breakpoints. That's your next step. So it'll take a couple of minutes for that. You have 3 minutes. Not working? Like, is the rug's not moving anywhere. That's it's not working. Okay. Oh. You put a space. Yeah. Don't put a space between your translate y and brackets, otherwise it's not gonna work. All right. Yeah, so what Steve just encountered was it wasn't working because there was a space right here. So don't put a space between your translate y and your opening bracket, otherwise it's not gonna work. Okay. Anyone get it? Cool. Joel, what'd you put for step 1 here? Keyframes launch. Okay. Yep. 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 Oh, okay. Translate x0. Okay. Okay, 25%. Let's change this to 25%. And yep, what do you say for that one? Now, you could also use the shorthand for these two, right? You could, instead of saying translate y, translate x, what's the shorthand for that? Yeah, so you just say translate 0, comma, 0. So we'll do the same thing for this one. So translate 0, no, negative 300, or is it, hold on, it's x first. So, yeah, so the y value has to come second. So that should be this, I believe. Okay, 50%, what'd you have? Wasn't 0. Okay, let's see it in action. Let's see here. Woo! Yeah, there we go. That was pretty fast too. Let's and then where's my there? Let's make it 5 seconds. See in action. Oh, there's a 2-second delay. I don't want the delay anymore. Let's take out the delay. There, first corner, second corner, third corner, and fourth corner. All right, cool. Oh yeah, sure. So here. Yeah, so the x value comes first, y value comes second. Cool. Now I did have a step 3 here challenge, and this is to let you know, hey, within each breakpoint, you can actually add more than just one. So right now we just have one thing, a transform, but you can have a transform translate, but you can have more than one thing happening in there. You could add as many properties as you want. So let's try this. Step 3, make the tip of the rocket point in the direction that it's about to fly, which means that in each breakpoint here, you'll probably have to do a rotate as well. Okay, so just as a reminder, to have multiple properties with transform, because transform has translate, rotate, skew, and scale. You just have to put a space, no comma, and then you could put rotate, and then 90 degrees or something like that. Should work. So there's the first one. Try that for the next 1 minute, 2 minutes, so that the tip of the rocket changes, that it's faces the direction that it's about to fly in. All right, so what you should have gotten was something like this. So maybe for the 25%, you had rotate 90 degrees. Yep, there's the first one. And then the second one, you probably had rotate 180 degrees. Let's see that in action. There, right? And then the third one, the 75%, you probably had rotate 270 degrees. So let's see that in action. Yep. And oops, we didn't see the last one. Okay, cool. That's what you should have had. Cool. And then the final number 4, and this is the cool thing, is because we defined this keyframes called launch, you can apply it to any DOM element. So I say here, just for kicks, add the same animation keyframe to one of our H2 headings above. So here, you got a bunch of H2s. Let's apply it. So here for maybe let's add an ID. Oh, I didn't. I added a class of heading right here. So let's target this heading, the dot heading, in our CSS and make it use animation keyframe launch. So in our CSS somewhere, let's say dot heading, and then you fill in the rest in 1 minute, and you should see it move. So the number 4 is add the same animation keyframe that you just defined to one of our H2 tags above. So just take an H2 tag. In the HTML markup, you see here I have H2 class of heading. So target this one, class of heading, and make that move accordingly using the same animation keyframe you just defined of launch. Anyone get it? You got it? So Mark, what'd you get?
I just did the dot heading.
Yep.
And then I just put in animate.
Yep. Yep. All right, let's see that in action. Whew. Wow. See that craziness? And so the benefit of this should be, you should realize that, oh, I can actually have different timings here, different durations, different delays, different timing functions. Even though I'm using the same launch, I can actually have different values for different elements. That's cool. That's the flexibility that you have. Cool. All right. Next slide. So this is just a reminder of last week. Last week we did transitions. And notice there's the similarities between transition and animation. So the only difference between these two is basically transition has transition property, animation has animation name. Otherwise, the same kind of hyphen names apply. However, remember that quote at the beginning where I said, or Sarah Drasner said that transitions are plane saws and animations are like power saws. Here's why animation is a power saw. So in addition to the breakpoints, you also have more properties here. Animation has more properties. So you have something called animation iteration count. That tells you how many cycles your animation should run. You have something called animation fill mode, which we'll get into. Animation direction and animation play state. So in the next several slides, we're going to go through each one, and there's going to be a challenge for each one. Any questions or comments so far before we move on? All right, so animation iteration count. This is an optional property that configures the number of times you want the animation to repeat. So the default, if you don't put anything, is set to 1. But you can put 2, 3, you can put infinite, so it keeps on going, or you could put decimals like 2.5. All right. So go back to your happy face one right here. Go back to your happy face, and we're going to try this out. So we're learning animation timing. Oh, sorry. Animation iteration count. Right, so by default, it's 1, and you should see the happy face go down from. It starts off at 100 pixels down, and then it goes further down. Right. So let's try what happens if we try 2. So let's click on 2, or replace the 1 with 2. See what happens. It was 1. There's 2. Let's try 2.5. 2.5. Okay. 1, 2, and 0.5. Oh, yeah. Well. Or you can have, if you want to make it go forever, you can say infinite, and this will make it go on forever. Infinite, which we won't. Okay. That was pretty simple. Here's your little challenge. So the next slide over. So again, keep your happy face tab open. We'll get to that again. So the next slide over is a challenge where you're going to recreate the iPhone's wobble effect. Whenever you want to rearrange your icons on the iPhone, it has that wobble effect. So if you open up this new CodePen, what is this? Oh yeah. So just for those of you who may not know, the wobble effect. Oh, I thought this was a GIF that would move. Oh, there. I think it's moving. Oh, wow. This is very slow. That's a very slow GIF. Try it again. Refresh. There. So you know it's kind of jiggling all around, kind of thing. Okay. So I've given you in the CodePen some sample icons, and I've in the comments of the CSS. I've had step 1, step 2. So go ahead and try to make the icons wobble using iteration count of infinite. Okay. So how do you think, first of all, how do you think you're going to make it wobble? What's the transform property you're going to use? Rotate. Yep. So try that out. Give you 5 minutes for that. Oh, so yeah, so notice how they all have the same class of icon. So you can grab all of them just by saying dot icon. So I've already provided you this. Yeah. So in step 2, all you have to say is the animation colon whatever. Yeah. Yeah. That way you can forward the YouTube video to wherever I end. All right, we may not need that many. Anyone get it? No? Okay. We'll wait till the timer finishes. Got it? I got it, yeah. That's a little bit slow to speed that up. All right, so Rakil kind of got it. Anyone else? Rakil, you want to share what you did? You want to say what you did for step 1? Yep. 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 How many? 15 degrees? Okay. I'll say 5 degrees. Whatever. And then? Icon? Oh, so you didn't have anything after 0%? Oh, okay. Okay, so main icon, what'd you say here? Huh? Oh, what did you name this one here? Wobble? Yeah, right, okay. Yeah. 4 seconds. 4 seconds. How about the iteration count? We're focusing on the, how many? Infinite? 3.5. Okay, you said 3.5. So does that 3.5? I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of, okay, I'm gonna suggest that you do infinite just so you can see the changes. I'm also gonna suggest that you probably need something else besides the 0%. I'm gonna say, yeah.
For me, I
Opposites.
rotating like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you probably had,
Value just the one's negative.
right, so you probably had something like,
Yeah.
something like this.
And
Yeah, how many milliseconds?
I found 180.
180 milliseconds. There we go, 180 milliseconds. So that's kind of like what you're going for, right? If you want to be, this is just if you want to be really picky. You could change the transform origin to be the center because I think right now it's at the top left corner. And if you really want to be picky, you could have it so that each icon wobbles at a slightly different delay. Right now they're all synchronized, but in the real iPhone they're not synchronized. But that's just being picky. Yeah, any questions on that before we move on? I'm going to offer a bonus mark right now for this one. And I was experimenting with this last night. And here's the bonus mark. And I'm going to change this to bonus. So you'll get 1 mark for this. So comment out step 2 above. So you're going to comment out this line if you want to do the bonus. And use JavaScript so that it wobbles upon any icon click. So if I click on any icon, all of them will start to wobble. And it'll stop wobbling upon the main body click. So if I click anywhere outside the icons, like here, click, then it'll stop wobbling. And you may need to learn something about something called C event propagation and how to stop it. That'll be an extra 1%. If you decide to do that. Okay. Anytime before February 19 at midnight. There you go. Cool. Next slide. So the next property after animation iteration count, we got animation fill mode, which is an optional property that configures what values are applied by the animation before and after it's executing. So the question is this: before the animation even starts playing, do you want the animation to have the 0% value? Or do you want the animation to have the 100% value before it even starts playing? Or opposite, after the animation finishes, do you want the animation to retain that 100% value? Or do you want it to go back to the beginning as it was before? So the default is set to none. So let's go back to our happy face for a second. All right. And so the default is set to none. Now I'm going to just move you probably already have this iteration count. I'm going to move our infinite into the shorthand notation. So I'm going to just say infinite here, and I'm going to comment out this line. So I'm going to introduce one property at a time, basically. For now, we'll say animation fill mode, colon. Let's try something called forwards. So forwards will retain its last value. Oh, so shoot, I don't want infinite. So the reason it's not working is because it's infinite. Just have two cycles there. Don't have a delay. Just say bobble 3 seconds, ease out 2. Okay. So maybe what I should do is, okay, there, perfect. So the animation finished. Notice the position of the animation. It's now at the bottom. So let's see it again. Let's remind ourselves what the animation would have looked like if I did not have this animation fill mode forwards. So I'm going to comment this out. Watch the animation cycle 2 times. 1, 2, and then it goes back to its original, there. It goes back to its original reset position. But because we now have this animation fill mode forwards, it should retain its 100% value. And stop. There. So that is one benefit of using animation fill mode forwards. Let's try the other value, which was, let me just check, backwards. So instead of, let's comment this out again. Notice that in our keyframe here, the 0% starts at 100 pixels down, right? But notice when the animation finishes, or it doesn't even start, it's right here at the very, very top of 0, 0 pretty much. And then when the animation begins, it starts like further down. So if I say backwards here, so let me comment this line out again and say backwards. don't know if you noticed that, but backwards. What was I expecting here? Yeah, I was expecting it to start at the retain its 0% value of 100 pixels. Let me try this. The other one was both. So if I say animation fill mode of both, should both have there. So it retains the forwards, and I think I'm missing on the backwards. Or maybe I'm just forgetting the backwards, what that really means. Again, backwards for mode. So the backwards means the animation will apply the values defined in the first keyframe as soon as it is applied to the target and retain this during the animation. Oh, that's why I'm not seeing it. Yes, we need a delay. Okay, so this will only be obvious if we have a delay. So let's go back to our thing here and let's add a delay of 2 seconds. And let me comment out the animation fill mode again. So here's my new line of animation. The only thing I did here is I said 2-second delay. I commented out the fill mode for now. Let's see the animation in action. 1, 2, there, right? Now, let's uncomment this animation fill mode backwards. Uncomment, there. Do you see what happened? It's not running yet, and well, now it is. So I guess it was running. But the delay made it obvious because before, when this was commented out, this icon was up at the top left. But now because I put backwards, it started down here at the 0%, which was the 100 pixels down. So this is just a little chart just to remind you that you can have backwards, forwards, or both. Backwards applies the styles at the first, forwards at the last, and both. You can have both as well. Here's a challenge. So here's the CodePen. Make the clouds move. So what I have here is I have a CodePen with 2 clouds in it. Okay. And your job is to make them move. Once you have that working, make the second cloud have a delay and not appear on screen until it is time. And make the animation repeat at least twice. Okay. So let me start you off with the first cloud. So step 1, keyframes. Let's do this together. At keyframes, it'll call it drift. 0%, we'll say make it go right. Translate X. Sorry, we want it to start, okay, at the 0%, we want the cloud to be off screen. So I'm going to say negative 300 pixels, which is off the screen. That's where its starting point is. And then the final destination will be transform, translate X, and it'll be off screen at the other direction. So I'm just going to put some real big value of 1400 pixels. Okay, so we defined our keyframe. That's step 1. Step 2, below that, you'll see there's 2 different classes there, one for cloud 1, one for cloud 2. So let's see what happens if we add our keyframe. So we'll just say animation, drift. We'll make it really slow, like 30 seconds. And we'll make it linear. I know I said in the past, don't make things linear because it doesn't look realistic, but I think the distance way out there kind of makes it look linear. Try that. So you should see both clouds moving. Right? Okay, so now your challenge is, go back to the slide for a second, make the second cloud have a delay and not appear on the screen until it is time. Oh, I said here, make animation repeat at least twice. So we should put here animation twice. So we'll put in a 2 there as well. So for both animation statements, put in a 2. Try that. Right now, the second cloud is animating at the same time as the first animation. So put a delay. Okay, let's put a delay for the second cloud. Let's say 2-second delay. Now what happens? Whoa, I don't want that cloud there. You see what happened there? That cloud appeared. There was a delay, but I don't want that cloud there. How do you solve that? Just have to add one property in this line here. Yeah, backwards, right? So I could say, I could do it one of two ways. I could say animation fill mode backwards here, or I could just use the shorthand and just put backwards here. So let's see what happens. If I say backwards, which means retain the 0% value, that means the second cloud is already off screen. It's going to wait 2 seconds and then go. So that is the benefit of using backwards, because sometimes your animations will appear and you don't want it to appear. Cool. Next. Animation direction. This configures whether or not the animation should alternate direction on each run through the sequence. Again, you need more than one iteration to see its effect. So by default, it's set to normal, but there are other properties called reverse, alternate, and alternate reverse. Alternate. Okay, so back to our happy face. I'm going to put this backwards property in here. Yeah. Right, so animation direction colon. Because we have 2 cycles already. So watch right now it's going, up to down, because it's basically going from beginning to end, beginning to end. Watch what happens if I say reverse for animation direction. There. So after 2-second delay, it starts from 100% to 0%, 100% to 0%. There it is. Watch what happens if I try alternate. So after 2-second delay, 1, 2, goes beginning to end, and this time it goes from end to beginning. So it's now like bobbing up and down. All right, let's try the fourth and final property of this is alternate reverse. So this, after 2-second delay, it should start at the 100% value, reverse to the 0%, and then go back to 100%. There you go. That is animation direction. Okay. Here's your challenge. In this CodePen, make the toggle move from left to right. And then from right to left if you add reverse. So you're just manually making it moved left to right through CSS. And then if you manually add reverse in that same animation statement, it should go back the other way. So step 1, I say in the comments, create keyframes that move the element 200 pixels to the right. And then step 2, apply it. And then see what happens if you put on reverse. So I'll give you 1 minute for that. All right, anyone get this one? So what you should have done is create keyframes here. And you could say at 0%, transform, translate. And 100% transform, translate x, 250 pixels. How we define it, we have to use it. So in step 2, we'll say animation. Oops, hold on. I think I forgot a name. Yeah, I forgot a name. So I'll call it like switch it, keyframe switch it. And then below, I'll say animation, 1 second. Let me just try that for now. See what happens. Okay. It did it. But notice how it didn't stay at the end. What's the solution to that? I want it to retain that end value. What keyword do I put in here? Here, I want the forwards, because that'll retain the 100% value. There, it'll stay. Now, because we're doing animation direction right now, if I were to put reverse here, reverse, now it should go the opposite way. That's it. And that's it for animation direction. And the final property is called animation play state. This defaults to running, but you can actually set it to be paused. So back to our happy face for a second. So let me move alternate reverse into our shortcut here. And out this one. Okay, so I could actually say here, animation dash play dash state paused, and it will not run the animation. But as soon as I say running, which is the default state, it'll run after a 2-second delay in this case. Okay, so you could change that through JavaScript, right? So it could be running. Upon click, it'll pause. So let's try that. Let's try that, because I think I said that here somewhere. No? Maybe not. Okay, so right now, let's make this paused. Okay, so the animation is paused initially. And through JavaScript, we'll change that to running. So in JavaScript, I'm going to grab that DOM element. I'm going to say const happy equals document.query selector. And I think I put an ID of hexagon on there. So I'll say hashtag hexagon. So I got it. Now that I got it, I can do something with it. So let's add a click event, happy.add event listener click. I'm going to use an arrow function here, just for shortcut, and then happy. And this is how you set the how you target the property. Before, in past week's classes, I taught you before, you could say, happy.classlist.add, and you name some kind of class name here, right? Or you could say .remove some class name, or I said you could say toggle some class name. But we're not dealing with class names right now. I just want to access the direct property. How do you do that? You use this happy.style.setProperty. Then in here, you name the property. So I want to target the animation play state, comma, and then after the comma, put in whatever values you normally put in CSS. So here I'm going to say running. So upon a click event, it should change the pause to running. So here we go, click. Now after a 2-second delay, it's going to go. There you go. Cool. For those of you who don't know arrow functions, you could do the old-fashioned way. It would still work. After 2 seconds, there it goes. Okay. Cool. And I think that's it. You can close happy. I think that's it for now. Oh, one more challenge before the break. I think, is there a break next? Oh, yeah, it's pretty much break. Okay. So one more challenge for the animation play state, and it's this: make this image, the pointy image, spin upon hover. Okay, so if you open up that code pen, have the step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4 if you want. So try to make this spin. Because right now, I believe it's set to pause. I could be wrong. Okay, then you'll have to, okay, you'll have to set it to pause by default. All right, so try that out. You can use I'll start you off with this. So step 1, at keyframes, I'll name it spin. There you go. And here's a shortcut. By the way, here's the shortcut. If nothing happens, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but if nothing happens for the 0%, right, like say the 0% does actually nothing, so you could actually just eliminate that altogether and just say 100%, right? 100% transform, rotate, I'll just use the turn. So that's step 1. So step 2, let's apply it. Animation, spin, and we'll make it like, I don't know, 10 seconds. Okay, cool. Now let's pause it. So step 3, pause it. So how do you pause it? Animation, play, 8. Okay, so now it's up to you. Step 4, upon JS click event, set the animation play states to running. All right, so like the last slide, you could have said spinner, we'll call it spinner. Let's grab the DOM element, and I think I don't have any IDs or classes, so I'll just use image because that's the only image there. And I'll say spinner.add-event-listener, click. And what I want to do, I want to .style.set property, animation play state, and the value will be running. That's it. If I click on this, it should start spinning. And yes, it does. Cool. Questions? Before we get to our break, last week we talked about sprite animation using sprite images and using the steps function. I'm just going to show, here's one example where you can use add keyframe animations to make a cat walk, right? So let's just peek into the code so that you know what's happening here. So here, in my keyframes, I define it to be walk, and I just say 100% move my background position appropriately. And how do I know it's appropriate? Because I looked at the image, I saw the dimensions of the image, and I'm going to the bottom of that image or end to the image. And then in the animation step, instead of having an ease out, ease in, I have a steps, and I have a number here that equals the amount of frames. So if we look at this this image, let's take a look at that image itself. You'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Therefore, I'm going to use 12 inside my steps. Okay. So that is just so you know that you can also use sprite animation steps with the animation keyframes, because you will need it for your in-class exercise, which you can do right now. Right, so do in-class exercise 5, and then you'll have a break for 15 minutes. Just to introduce you what that looks like, under weekly learning, under week 5, I say this. On click, make Super Mario walk to the right, and fork my code pen. So here's my code pen. Look at my code pen for a second. I've given you this. You have to make Mario walk to the right upon click. I put some comments here in both the CSS and the JS to help you. So yeah, so try that out. Modify your code, then submit your CodePen link. I've put some tips here as well in the Blackboard. It's like create keyframes, walk cycle right, create keyframes, move right, create animation statement that uses it, and comment out the above step, and now use a JS click event to make it to make a move. All right. Cool. So you have 30 minutes to do as you would like for the class exercise and the break. You have access to the what? Of him? Yeah, you just look at the source code here, and there it is. Yeah. And if you copy that URL and go to a different tab and open that URL up, you should see the resource. Oh, hold on, wrong one. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if where's the other guy? Oh, there he is, Mario. Mario. There it is. I was using these 3 guys. This guy here, and this guy here. Those are the 3 that are making him move. I'm ignoring the rest. Try that out while I get lunch. 30 minutes starts. Yeah, there's the quiz and there's the lab. Is that what you mean? I did have to like other stuff to show, like SVG line animation, a hack, a little challenge. And then I'm just going to show this and just say, by the way, you could also do this. By the way, you could also do this. By the way, you could also do this. More like show and tell, more so than actually doing stuff. So if you have to leave, is that what you're asking? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I don't mind. Oh, so to tell the size, what you can do is once you get Mario, and oh, I see what you're saying. Like, it's sort of like what did I use? I think I don't know what I used. Sort of like a guessing game, either a guessing game or math. I wasn't very good at math. When I did it, it was sort of like, oh, let's try 100 pixels. Oh, that doesn't look right. Let's try 70 pixels. Yeah. Yeah. So let me see here. So I start you off with this. Background position of Mario is negative 500, pix negative 75. So that's what the starting point. So that means in your steps function, you have to move the x value a different value so that it goes to the next frame. Now I don't know what that value is right off the top of my head, but you have to if you just start off with like, I don't know, minus 400 pixels or maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's whatever, negative 300 pixels. I don't know, and see what you see, and then judge from there which direction you have to go. That's the trial and error method. Yeah, Matt. Those were like one that I showed you. Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking about doing like emulating like a Pokemon battle.
Yeah.
Like the old Game Boy style. Click this.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. It is. It is.
I just don't have time for it.
Yeah. Yeah. February 19. Everything's due February 19. Midnight. Yeah. Yeah, okay, okay.
But
now you have to make them walk using not the ease out, but the steps. So delete ease out, substitute that with steps.
right over your stuff.
Yeah. And then in brackets, and you have to count how many frames. I think there was only 3 frames. But the problem is now you have to move. You have to go to the next frame because this is actually a sprite image. It's better if I show you here. If you look at Mario, only this frame right here,
Okay.
that's the default position that I gave you. And then this is the next one, and then this is the next one. Those are the 3. That's why you said steps 3. But now you have to actually move, transform, translate X to this position.
So I've done that. Zero.
No. So for sprites, you don't want to use transform. You want to look back at my week 4 stuff. Week 4. In my week 4 stuff, I went over sprites. And you want to move this, the background position.
Okay.
You don't want to use transform, you want to use the background position. You have to figure out what the coordinates are.
You have given the back.
You have to figure it out based on the image. Watch my week 4 lecture.
Okay.
Hey,
Can you
Yeah.
apply for me project one and not five?
what?
Can you explain for me project one?
Project one?
Yeah.
Assignments.
Assignment.
So you're making a toggle, and then basically you're using transform, transition, animate. You can use either JavaScript or jQuery to affect it in some way. You can use JavaScript to add classes if you want, or set properties, and just basically make a toggle work.
Just only I have to do the toggle work and switch on and on off, right? Or
Yeah,
nothing,
so-
nothing. Or you have
I gave you some
different-
examples here. So here's some examples of some last year's work. These are some of my top students from last year. So let's start with this one here. This person here, they had a toggle,
Oh yeah.
and then when they click it,
It have the volume, right? It has the
So the-
sound, right?
so when they click it, something happens. And then it goes something. See? So whatever you want to do. My example was very simple. When I showed you my example, as I was learning how to do animation myself, I showed you this one today. I mean, this is a very basic example. There, that's all I did, right?
Yeah.
Animation there. See the button turn into a square. So
Any idea I have if I click on the toggle
Mhm.
and maybe the sound off or on is okay.
Say that again.
If I click the toggle, the bottom on or off the sound, that's okay.
I'm not-
And like something
I'm not sure what you're saying. Unless you show me, like me.
I'm not now.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm not sure what you're saying.
So when I decide some game and it play something in on the modify. So when I click the button and it's off the sound,
It's off the
sound,
Off the-
the volume,
off the
off volume
off the volume
of the sound.
of the shell
SOUND.
sound. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. Oh, volume and sound. Okay, you want to add sound? Yeah, you can add sound.
It's okay.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to. Yeah.
So I just ask you. And can you show me lab file?
Lab 5.
But like my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend from high school,
Weekly
we
learning.
used to like get pizza a lot.
Lab 5. Yeah.
Same thing.
So I didn't talk about this yet.
Like eat it.
I'll assign this at the end of the class.
It's not the same and it's not as good.
And lab 4. So I am
Lab
not
5 or
sure
lab 4?
lab 4, but I'm not sure. Maybe I do something not in it.
This one here.
Lab 4. Yeah, you return from step and just click the icon
Click the,
and it action, right?
it does something. Yeah, using steps. Yeah, look at my week 4,
Oh yeah.
and then
And Swifter is similar Swifter,
very
right?
similar to week 4, what I showed in week 4.
And so when I click the light and it have action a little bit, change animation or
The animation changes. Yeah, it's if you look at my slides for week 4, I show that example, and then it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. Yeah. Just watch the week 4 one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm try this with
Okay.
every time.
Okay. All right.
You go first. Can I ask him that?
Yeah. So,
On the quiz,
quiz, yes. For this class right now? Okay.
there's a question, I'm not sure, there was like a code example where you were moving something 250 pixels to the left or right.
Okay.
The menu. There's the fill, animation fill. I
Yeah.
think you have backwards and forwards.
Okay.
Isn't it supposed to be reverse and the other way around?
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Or I think it's animation direction and animation fill mode.
There you go.
Very long question. Isn't it that one? No, it's not. Did you remove it?
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. These are 4% of your grade, or just 4%?
Yeah, 4% of your total grade. Yeah. Is it this one?
No. It's,
This one?
no.
No.
This one.
This one?
Yeah. Animation. Film mode is forwards, but isn't it different for
I have two
direction?
forwards here. Yeah. So thank you. So that should be.
I think it's,
Oh shoot.
yeah, I don't think, because I think when I checked elementary schools, I don't think forwards was one of the options. Usually,
Yes,
like,
you're right.
inverted or
Yeah.
something.
That's a mistake. That should be, I think, normal. I think I wanted. Was that? Oh, shoot. Let me just. Yeah, default is that's normal for everything. Thank you. Give me 1 second. All right, cool.
So I got two larger questions. So my first question is, I'm really struggling to figure out that opening of the second day. Okay. Help take the stress off of toggle. But I was trying to figure out an idea that would be unique and not boring, and if it was super ghetto from an aesthetic point, it would maybe do something a little bit cooler.
Okay.
So I couldn't really like find any sprite animation. So I was thinking about having toggle, like having the sun out, toggle that when you click it grows a plant out, and there's water on it, which is why it grows. And then when you click the toggle off, the water would go away, and the plant would shrivel up. But I can't find anything, so I have to make my own images. It would look really ghetto. So I was like, maybe I'd have better luck with something a little bit more straightforward. So I was thinking about like potentially taking like black disc, like a puck, and having a stick that when you click the toggle, the stick skews back.
Yes,
right?
That's better.
And in front of the fucking stick, there is a net, but it has 5 targets instead of just 1.
Oh, cool.
So I was thinking about potentially trying to find a way. So if these 5 targets would have to be in the scope of the checkbox, right? Because of the fact that when it's clicked, it has to toggle, or I can just potentially call in the JavaScript to toggle the checkbox to checked when one of these elements are clicked, right? Because like I was thinking of it is if this is
Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay. No.
this is the item itself, and then I have like this area separately with like these items here. You can say that when anything in here is clicked, this is on to toggle it off, right? So that would take this stick down and hit it, and then it would shoot, and it would go depending on where you click into one of these. So Andre made a suggestion about toggling, like having like 5 keyframe animations potentially, and depending on which one was clicked would depend on what keyframe animation gets plugged into the puck. But I was also wondering if there's any way to like grab the position. That would be easier. And if like this is position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to say like if this one's clicked, put this direction in for the puck's path instead. So I was trying to figure out how I would do, and I want to make sure that it wasn't going to be overly complicated. I'm just going to sink myself into a hole.
It looks, maybe just try with 2 for now, just to see if his concept is right. But I think there should be a way, yes. Remember how I said dot the Mario dot or whatever dot style dot set property.
Yeah.
And then I said animation for the cube, and I said a bunch of other things with maybe through that technique you could,
Okay. Yeah.
because it's in JavaScript, you could potentially put anything in that right hand side values,
Like-
string, like class names, for example.
Or top.
Or, yeah,
And with the position.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
technically that should
Okay.
work.
Okay. Now, like right now, like when I think of a traditional toggle, it's kind of like, like this,
Yeah.
and then it moves
Right.
over here. So does this
That's
whole
fine.
area have to be like my toggle?
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to put a border on it.
But like no,
Yeah.
without the border. But like in theory, if
That's
I'm
fine.
going to nest the elements, this is going to have to be part of my toggle, right?
No,
Or
not
can I-
necessarily. Like my building, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't think the pins was part
Part
of
of
the
it.
toggle, it was just there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you could click here
Yeah.
instead twice.
Yeah. And if I move the ball, or in your case the puck, and then 2 seconds, at 2 seconds, so my pins have a delay of 2 seconds, it's waiting for the ball, and then after the delay of 2 seconds it goes. To get the illusion that the ball hits it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that seems very ambitious.
Is it too ambitious?
It might be. Well, just try with 2. That's what I'm saying. Just try with 2.
Okay. Okay. I'll try that. Awesome. And I had another question.
Yeah.
Question number 2 is, so I'm looking at like trying to learn MongoDB.
Yeah.
There's some tutorials and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Is it strictly like when you're working with it until you're interacting with it with like your web pages? Is it strictly all CLI? Like in order to generate the databases and the tables and the fields essentially?
Yes. However, there's 2 ways to use MongoDB. I believe the one way that you're going to use it in the Node class is not the CLI way. It's probably going to be the Mongoose way. So what you're probably learning right now is how to create tables and all that using the Mongo CLI, which is great, but you never actually, I'm not sure if you actually ever need that in your Node course, because in your Node course, what you ended up using is not the CLI Mongo way. You'll end up using Mongoose way. And that uses the CLI under the hood, but it's just an easy way to deal with Mongoose.
It's like a GUI for it?
It's not even GUI. It's like in JavaScript, in your controllers folder, you're gonna have a controllers folder.
Yeah.
Actually, you're gonna have a models folder, and there you're gonna require Mongoose, which then talks to your Mongo database, so that in your code somewhere, if you ever need to grab some JSON, you'll say some kind of blah 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 dot. I forget the command now to get elements from Mongoose, but that's all you have to say is thing dot get, and you've got it. That's it.
And does it pull it in as a file? Like, can you actually
JSON.
And it does? Okay. So what's this
Actually,
like?
BSON.
I was gonna-
binary JSON.
okay, that's what I was going to say. What's this like BSON format?
So when we were doing our class, the JSON was being transmitted over the internet. That's basically text format.
Yeah.
But the BSON is the binary format of the JSON. So I just think of the difference between text and binary. That's it. Back in 101 days. So it's just they did that to be faster, I think.
So you can actually pull that in and see the data laid out like how we were viewing JSON files as well.
Yeah, I think. Remember how we in our class when we got some JSON from somewhere, we had
Yeah.
to still JSON.parse.
Okay,
Parse it,
yeah.
remember to use it because otherwise we can't really use it
Yeah.
because it was in text format.
Yeah.
But the BSON allows you to use it without using JSON
Okay.
because it's in the JavaScript object patient already in the binary format.
Okay.
So you don't have to actually
And
parse it.
are we going to have to use MongoDB Atlas to get this?
I don't think so. No, maybe he might. Maybe it's a new hot thing.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out more for like our group project because we're going to be doing like the meta because we're not using Angular, we're going to use Vue.
Yeah.
But we're going to use MongoDB to have our database set up.
Right.
So
When you're learning your MongoDB right now, are you using something called mlab.com?
we haven't even started with Mongo.
That's what most likely what Chris is going to get you guys to do is you sign up an account on mlab.com, which is basically MongoDB on the cloud, and then use Mongoose to connect with mlab. So in a sense, you never actually have to deal with CLI to talk to Mongo.
And that's just if you want to like actually store it for it to be accessible other than from your local.
Yeah, because
From your local
yeah,
host.
you could do it local, but I don't think anyone. I doubt that he's gonna let you do local. I'm
For
pretty sure
his.
for his course for both your web studio and the
Yeah.
course. I'm pretty sure you're gonna use mlab.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we only have to show an example of it for them. We don't have to actually let them access it on their own. So if we're showing you just on our local machine,
Oh, I
you
see.
should be able to just use the local port too.
Yeah.
Does that make- Yeah.
Although there's benefits to having it on MLab instead of local. If your whole team is working on it,
Then you can have it everywhere. True. And is it limited? Because I looked up MongoDB Atlas and only gave you like 512 megabytes of storage. Is that the same way that MLab works?
I forget the limit for MLab, but pretty
It's
sure
fairly
it's
flexible.
fine, yeah.
And in terms of adding MongoDB, you just added as a dependency the same way you do it with Express or anything, sort of like NodeMon.
So you're gonna npm install Mongoose.
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 Okay.
And then you're also going to have another file that has your database connection string that tells where MLab is and what the credentials are. That's going to be stored in a separate file. And so somewhere in your Node app, you're going to refer to that file so that Mongoose knows the credentials to log into MLab.
Okay. That would be in the app.js, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I figured it's probably easier to ask you than to try and find a million places for it, so thank you.
What I've done, here I created graphic back and like in the background with like usually like a data like online source. Right now I'm just trying. It might be like a graphics similar to this one. Switch now, but right now I just want to like I got it centered horizontally, but I want to get this centered vertically and get the switch centered in varies well. So how would I go about
After this, say top, and then add and just from there. Say that, refresh. Oh, there you go. Adjust. Yeah. MLab. Yeah. So if you look at mlab.com, you'll see. Okay. Hey, Joel.
you not have two different animations going at the same time?
You can. You should be able to.
Like set up two different keyframes
Yep. You can. Yeah.
and then you just put a comma in that animation or
Yeah. So what you can do, yeah, here, now come to think of it, I think the lab of the in-class exercise walk-in, but that's because I have two keyframes. I have a walk right keyframe and a move right keyframe,
Right.
and then to actually use it, where'd it go? Oh, okay. CSS way
Yeah.
is this. So I have a comma after the first set,
Okay.
and then the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I should have said. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I was really looking for some kind of fall.
Okay, so more on the buttons than.
Yeah.
And then just
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I get the button.
All right. A question I had that I'm going to answer right now is, can we have more? Can we assign more than one keyframe to an element? And the answer is yes. Let me show you my answer to the Mario one. So if you look real closely, you'll see some answers here. So here's my Mario. If I click it, he walks, right? So what I'm doing is I have two keyframes, walk right, move right, and then I animate it in one statement saying, here's the first set right there, and then I put a comma, and then here's the second set right there. You could do that in CSS, so it'll do two. In JavaScript, again, I'm using the set property, animation, and then in quotes, just put both, right? So you could check that out. Cool. So here's my little commercial break, some links that I saw in the past week that you might be interested in. So in last semester's course, I talked about PWAs, Progressive Web Apps. As of last week, the Google Play Store is now open for Progressive Web Apps. So check that out. So if you make a Progressive Web App, you can publish it in the Google Play Store. Cool. This came out on CSS Tricks. Slide an image to reveal text with CSS animation. When I saw this, I said, okay, you could use this for your assignment too. Look, so this could be your toggle. Woo, right? Reveal text underneath it. That's kind of neat. Okay. And also another tip is this tweet here, which reminded me of something here called TS check. So if you're in VS Code and you add TS check at the very top of your file, you can actually get TypeScript checking. So let me show you an example of that. If I open up VS Code, and I'm going to create an index.html file. And we'll just say, so comment at TS check. That's all you have to say. Let me save that as an index.js file. Okay, so check this out. If I say, let or var equals, some number, and then later on in my code, if I make the mistake by saying a equals a string, see this squiggly line right here, red squiggly line. That's because of this. If I, let me the red squiggly line right here. If I didn't have this TS check, it would go away because JavaScript would allow it, right? So if you want some easy, fast type checking to make sure you're assigning the right kinds of variables in your JavaScript, then you could do that. Nothing you have to add for that. It's built in, so VS Code. Okay, this is something that I have not yet taught last year. So there's this article. Let's go through this together. Okay, how SVG line animation works. And the effect that we're going for is this. This is the end result. So how do we get that and why do we get that? So this article explains the how and the why. So we're going to do this step by step together, or you can just watch me and see how it works. So you have an SVG shape. So I need an SVG shape. There happens to be a website called blobmaker.app. So I'm going to use this. There it is. There's my blob. I can, have different kinds of blobs. And if I like it, I just download the code. There's the code, blobshape.svg. So let me download that, save. There we go. So let's take a look at that. There it is. Let's view the page source. There's the code. So let's copy the code and go into CodePen and put it in. You don't have to do this. You can just watch if you want. It already gave me the SVG code, so I don't think it has any line elements in there for the SVG, but we'll see in a second. As soon as I paste, you'll see it. Or paste. There's the blob, and do we have line codes in there? No, it's just paths. Yeah, so the animation from this web page, what we're going for is this effect down here. See how it's going? It's drawing itself kind of thing. It's giving the illusion that it's drawing itself. That's what we're doing, and how and why we're doing how to do that. So you basically have an SVG shape. Okay, we got that. The shape must have a stroke. So notice here they have the stroke equals some kind of color, and a stroke width is some kind of value. So let's try that out. So in here, do I have a stroke for this? No, I don't. So I'll say stroke equals some kind of color value. Let's say, I don't know. Can I just say 0, 0? There it is. Okay, there's my stroke. You can see there's this faint outline of black there. Okay. And what else did I need? I need a stroke width of 4. That's just to make it thicker. So let's say stroke width equals 4. There we go, the thicker black line. Great. Now, you could have these strokes dashed. So it says here you could do it from Illustrator, but you could also do it programmatically. So what you could say is stroke dash array 20. And so let's try that using the CSS way. So the CSS way is I'm going to grab this path. So let's have a class of path too. Let's just say class of path. I'm going to target that class now in the CSS. So I'm going to say path. And then what did they say? They said stroke dash array of 20. Array of 20. So that changes the solid line into dashed lines. Okay. Next, this is just to let you know it could be longer. So it could be 100. Okay, let's see what happens if I say 100 or 120. Okay, so now the dashes are longer. Okay. You can also offset the stroke, which moves those dashes around. So let's say here, what did I say here? This is stroke dash array. Okay, let's define the keyframe here and at keyframes dash. At keyframes dash. And we're saying stroke offset to 1,000. So let's apply our new keyframe up here. So we're going to say animation dash. What did they say? 1 second. So 5 seconds linear. Okay, sure. Okay. So that's one way of using the at keyframes animation to make it move. And then they go on to say, imagine that a dash so long that it covers the entire shape. And now use the offset to make it draw itself. So that's basically why it's drawing itself, because the illusion is made because we're setting some really large value for these dashes, dash offset and dash arrays. So if we take our dash array and make 1,000, make it a really large value, like 1,000, and dash offset to be 1,000 as well. So that's already 1,000. And so here you can already see. Oops. That again. Let's try 4 seconds. Here you can already see it's like undrawing itself. And if I say maybe alternate infinite, and see technique used to make it draw itself, so to speak. So that's just an FYI. And you can also get the total length of the blob using this get total length to get the exact value of what you need up. Not just 1,000, it could be the exact. Cool, that's just an FYI. What else? Here is a hack. So it's one thing you should know about keyframes animation is it's not as easy as you think to restart it. And so Chris Coyer from CSS Tricks, he's outlined the different ways you can hack your CSS or JavaScript to make it work. And so he had this one example here, but the one I ended up using in my first attempt at the toggle last year was, where was it? Something about void. There it is. You have to use this void element.offsetWidth, and that will make the animation restart itself. So that first toggle of my attempt that I showed you earlier, I'm actually using a void element.offsetWidth to hack it in order to make the animation start again. So that's something you need to know if you were to choose to do it that way. Okay, this one here is a simple one. So now that you've learned everything in the first half of class, here's your challenge, and you have to recreate the Star Wars logo fade out. So this is what I'm looking for. Not that. Not that, but rather, once it fades out, this. Make it appear, make it scale down to almost 0, make it fade out to almost 0 as it goes on. That's it, just that logo. Okay, so I've given you a code pen right here. And if you, there's the Star Wars right there. So I've given you step 1. So step 1 here is hide the logo with opacity 0. So I'm going to change this opacity 1 to opacity 0 so you no longer see the Star Wars. That was step 1. Step 2 is make the logo appear big and fade. So here's where you would define your keyframe animation. So I'm going to say at keyframes, and then you could, whatever you want there. And then step 3 is apply it. So with everything you've learned so far, try that out for the next few minutes and see if you got it. By the way, the reason why I did the Super Mario Lab or in-class exercise was you could turn that into a toggle for your assignment 1 as well, right? So one side, he got Super Mario. Other side, maybe he gets a mushroom and scales up big, something like that. I don't know. All right, let's take it up. So did anyone get it? Okay, so what you should have done, so for here, step 2, I'm going to define the keyframe logo. So I'm going to say 0%, and I'm going to start off with it hidden. So the opacity, actually no, for the 0%, I want the opposite. I want it to show up right away, actually. So I want the opacity to be 1. So that's going to be like, right? So that's the first one, opacity 1. And I wanted it to be huge. So I'm going to scale it up. I'm not sure how much, maybe just, I don't know, 5. We'll see how big that is. And then at the end of that animation, I want the opacity to be pretty much 0. And then the scale will be pretty much like very tiny, right? I'll just say 0.1. So now that I've defined it, let's apply that animation in step 3. So we'll say animation, I think I called it logo, and we'll say 10 seconds. There it is. So linear if you want. Right, so there we go. So it's doing it kind of thing. Fading out, opacity 0, scaling down to almost 0. That's it. So the big idea is, notice how I'm using multiple properties, because before we just had transform here. You could have transform, rotate, and translate, but now we're having actual multiple properties per break. But that's the big idea. Cool. And as I said before, you can have multiple keyframe sequences per animation. So the big idea is, just like I showed you during the break with the Super Mario moving to the right and so on, you could have different things. So here I can actually apply another keyframes to make them fade in and out. So if I say fade in out and say, 0% starts off with opacity 1, and then maybe 100% move to opacity 0. And I can actually apply this fade in and out in the same line as my animation here. So for here, this animation here, I have my bobble. Now I can just put comma and say fade in out, maybe 3 seconds, infinite, something like that. And he should be doing both at the same time. There it is. So he's both moving, bobbling, and fading in and out at the same time. So that's the big idea, is that you can have multiple keyframes per animation. And I should have had this slide before you did the in-class exercise. All right. So here is a little exercise for you for the next few minutes. Make this modal slide in from the bottom and fade in. So here's the modal, right? I want you to make this slide in and fade in, or slide up and fade in. So in the comments section, should have here, step 1, add some keyframes so the modal slides in from the bottom. Step 2, add another keyframe. Oh, sorry. Step 2 is apply that keyframe to the section tag. Step 3, add another keyframe to make it fade in, and add that new keyframe in to what you already had. So you could try that for the next few minutes. Try that out. All right, so let's take it up. So in my step one, I said at keyframes slide, and I'm basically saying at the beginning, start from down below. So translate Y as 100 pixels. And at the end, just go back to its root position, normal position. And then step two was applying that keyframe to the section tags. So the section tag is all the way up here somewhere. There it is. So I added that animation. I said slide 700 milliseconds, ease out. But then for the next step, step three, it says add another keyframes called fade. So I said keyframes fade, and I started from opacity of 0 and ended with opacity of 1. And then I went back to that animation statement and added that with a comma. So comma, fade in, or sorry, just fade, and gave it a different value as the one here, gave it a different function, timing function as the one here, just to show that you can. And so if you run it, looks like that. Okay. Try it again, run. So that's pretty much all I had for today. I'm going to briefly look at other things that you may want to know in case you want to use this. So the material design effect for the buttons, you have that ripple effect. How did they do that? Let me just show you how they did that. If you ever want to know. So this is what the ripple effect looks like, right? You just click on the button and it kind of has that ripple effect. How do they do that? Well, they're using a pseudo element called after. This is one way to do it. And they're using keyframe animations here. See, keyframe animation ripple. They started off with a scale of 0. And then at the end of a scale of something really large. And they started off with an opacity of 1. And then at the end, they fade out. And then they used animation ripple, 1 second ease out. That's that kind of thing. So there's some kind of element on top of that one that makes it have that effect. Okay, so check that out if you want. Here's something. So here, let me just change view, full page view. Refresh this. Now I didn't have time to make a Kahoot today, so this will be our short Kahoot session. Someone tell me, for a sticker, someone tell me, this is encapsulating all the week so far. Someone tell me what property do I use to make this look 3D? In the parent element, I had to stick something in order to make this have a 3D look. What's that one property? Yeah, perspective. You get a sticker. I'll lay out my stickers in a second. Second question: how is it that notice it's rotating at the very bottom? It's not rotating at the middle. It's rotating at the bottom. How do I get that? Transform origin. You get a sticker. All right. Next one. I'm using. Notice how each of the letters are being staggered. I'm using at keyframes animation. What is the animation property to make that happen? I believe I'm using that. I could be wrong. No, I think I am. I suppose you could look at the code and find out. But the first person who tells me without looking at the code gets a sticker. Delay, that's what I'm looking for. Animation delay. Jaden, you get a sticker. Yes, very good. Okay, so all three of you get stickers. Very good. Here is my attempt at assignment number 1, knowing what I know now. So this is 1 year later after learning animation. So let me demonstrate this code pen. You can see the code there. And I did put in a bowling sound as well. Hopefully it'll play. If I click it again, to go back and reset. Okay, so that's my attempt at this year's thing. So notice here in the pins, I'm using perspective and 3D origin as well right here. I'm changing the color, and I'm using SVGs as well, because notice how each of these pins is actually being scattered about individually. It's not the whole image being, it's each of the pins. And I can only do that because I'm using SVG. And each pin, if you look at the code, well, if you look at the SVG code, I'm labeling, I put an ID of pin 2 for that one, an ID of pin 3 for this path, ID of pin 4. So I'm labeling each pin so that I can do something different with it. Now, but check it out how I do that. I actually use JavaScript here, where I'm saying the .style.set property, animation, and then I'm using variables in here in my string, right here. So this is one long string, and I'm putting the values, and the values all are changing. That's why each of those, see, I'm putting a math.random there, so each of those pins are randomly scattering. And so you could do that as well in JavaScript, is that you can have your backticks, which is the ES6 way of doing it, and put in your variables for where variables should be, and that'll work, right? Actually, where's Brando? Brando, you were asking a question during break. Check it out. So I said, to answer your question, I have classes here, different classes. Where's my classes? I have strike classes. Where's my strike classes? Here. So I have a strike 1. I have different keyframes called strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, strike whatever, right? Now check it out how I access each one. So I say strike and then the variable name. So this will be basically 1, 2, or 3, depending. So that's how I'm applying a different keyframe per pin, right? Yeah. And that is it, my friends. You have the remainder of class to do the quiz and to do lab 5. Just before that, here are my little commercial break announcements. And this will help you get jobs. So this first link is someone collected all their common interview questions. So like common JavaScript questions. You click on that, and here are the questions you could be asking in an interview, along with their answers if you need that. Second link is a job listings on Twitter. It's called Front End Dev Jobs, and every so often they'll put different job postings, and it's good to see what they're looking for, so you can keep up. And the final one is another job posting, but this time it's on CodePen. CodePen also has a job board. See if you can check those out. And some of these are remote, which is kind of cool. So that's all I want to say. Yeah, so you have till the end of class. Any final questions or comments before you do quiz in lab 5? Cool. I will end the YouTube recording.